So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all. It's a special moment for me because it's my first event since the whole COVID thing has started. So I'm both excited and anxious about it. I got a bit rusty, so I will try to do my best, but I have to apologize up front for any mistake that I'm gonna make and so on and so forth. So before I get to the main topic of the event, I'm gonna tell you a bit about my last week. So last Wednesday, I had a short conversation with Mitko, who is sitting here, encouraging me to do that. And we were talking about, preparing like our presentations, because Mitko's presentation is gonna take place tomorrow, right? And spoilers, it's way better than mine, so you should definitely attend this one. Mine should be fine, like 6 out of 10. His is gonna be stuff of brilliance. Anyway, so we were talking about it last Wednesday, and he made me aware of the fact that on Thursday we've got the deadline for delivering our decks. And I had nothing at that point, so I quickly delivered the deck. And this is the second time I'm seeing that, so I'm gonna be equally surprised by the content that you are. So currently, I have a huge pleasure of working in 11-bit, serving as a game director for still unannounced Project 8, as well as, like, to a lesser degree, but being involved in some other projects I cannot talk about just yet. But all of them, once we announce them, I think they're gonna be pretty exciting. But this is not my first rodeo, though. Like, previously, I had an opportunity of cooperating with brilliant people, way more smarter than I am, which is always great because I've got someone to learn from, on bunch of projects, starting, like, chronologically speaking, starting from, I think, Anomaly, it was the second one, and then Defenders, then This War of Mine, Frostpunk, Moonlighter, and so on and so forth. And for those games, I've been mostly responsible for creative and strategical planning or communication planning for those games, as well as branding and basically managing those campaigns along with the beloved team of mine. And this is when, like, working on those things, I have gathered some experience that I would like to share with you today. And so, at this point, I should share some up-to-date data with you, showing you how challenging our market is and how difficult it is to survive. But we all know that, and yet we are here. So most probably we want to do what we do, or we have no other choice. Why not both? And so, like, there is no point in me telling you about all of that. Excuse me? Yeah, all right. Sure, the market is challenging, the market is difficult, and it's hard to survive out there, and we want to stay afloat, but this is where marketing come into play, all in white or all in black in my particular case. Marketing understood as, like, the way to convince people that not only you have something to offer for them, but you've got something that they should actually be interested in, and hopefully they're gonna buy at the end of the day, being your product, your game. And obviously you can think about that as something that we all do, because yes, to a certain degree, having our products out there, or rather putting them out there, we are doing some form of marketing. But in video games, to my experience, usually it tends to be somewhat limited and based on very strict and simple structure. So we've got our marketing, we've got our announcement trailer, we've got some gameplay reveal, we've got our launch trailer, so we are basically good. There is nothing more to that. And sure, it's a starter, it's a foundation that we should build upon, but if we consider that to be our foundation for a campaign of sort, it's rather outdated. It's something that used to work at some point where things were easy, simple, and full of dinosaurs. Nowadays, thinking about how to survive or even thinking about the future, I'm trying to see if the joke has landed, but yeah, we should think about a more complex, not necessarily complex, but more efficient way of handling things. Because as with games, like games used to be simple yet exciting, but they have evolved. And I was absolutely in love with Ninja 30 years ago or so when I was like playing my first video games on my Atari 65 XE with California Access disk drive. Right now I'm more into Sekiro, so my love for ninjas is still true, but I'm playing games that are a bit more advanced, a bit more evolved. And that means I'm showing you that because both of those games are cool, but also to tell you that like back in the days, having those 3 beats, you were competing with simpler products that had simpler premises. Right now, you are competing with something way more advanced, with bigger budgets, with more features, and your games are way more advanced as well, so they need more love and more caring on the marketing side of things as well. So this is why I believe that right now, marketing is not about like defining a simple path where we leave some bits for our consumers. It's more of a creation of a space. So something that is very similar to level design, as I believe. Because just think about it. In marketing planning, or basically when you are handling some sort of a foundation for your campaign, what you are doing is you are creating a space of sort that should spark interest, encourage exploration, and ultimately lead towards a specific objective, fulfilling which should be gratifying for your participant. So again, level design at the core of it all. It's just that the tools that you are using are a bit different. And just like with your levels, here people won't always do what you want them to do, and that's fine as long as doing whatever they want to do, they will find something gratifying and something that hopefully will bring them to purchasing your game. And obviously there is no ultimate path that will lead you towards your goal. I apologize for that. But because we are referring to levels, because we are referring to space and creation of one, we can easily say that there are at least some coordinates that we can use, coordinates that you can actually use to like improve your chances, so to speak, to find like a proper moment and a proper point at which you should engage, educate, and convert your potential client. So those coordinates, as I see them, and again, those are not part of any well-established method, nor they come from any book. There are books out there, obviously, that are great, and I am more than happy to recommend some of them to you. But those are the rules that I am following myself, and they tend to work for me, or they used to work for me when I was handling the marketing side of things in our company. So this is just my experience. I'm not saying this is the best way of doing things. I'm saying that this is the way I used to handle them, and it worked for me pretty well. So maybe, hopefully, it will work for you as well. So, rule number 1, or level number 1, or coordinate number 1, however you want to have it. Good plan, good marketing plan should be purposeful. What do you think? Like, what does it mean? What's the one thing that you should start with when working on your marketing plan?
Time.
Time. Why time? Okay, so when you think about time and when you like consider your timing the most important element, where will that lead you ultimately? Sell. And you're selling your game is what for you?
Money.
Sure. Why do you want that money?
Develop.
Yes. Okay, so, and the development is like, so creation, so doing new stuff, doing new games, creating something new. This is why we are here. So for me, I would say bringing that together, that This is my grand objective. Every plan, everything that we do marketing-wise should, in my honest opinion, start with us truly understanding what our goal is. And obviously, as you have said, like we've got like a space and a time that we have to take into consideration, and our ultimate goal is to sell our game. That's all true. But this is too simple to track. We need to know beforehand how well we are doing or if we are failing, because once our game is out there, it's going to be a bit too late to actually make any adjustments. So as with our objectives in our games, so again, back to level design, whatever we do in that vast space of ours, we should keep track of our main objective. Right? And obviously, as you have already rightfully said, I want to sell my game. This is the most important part. But how should I do that, right? So how many copies of that game should I sell? How quickly should I sell them? So the factor of time. For what price? Who's going to buy it? So who should be interested in my game? What's the conversion ratio from those people that I'm going to like reach out to those that will actually make the purchase? How many should I reach then? Through which channels? And so on and so forth. So those are the, like, this is the breakdown of questions that you should ask yourself and questions that you actually should have answers for, right? So obviously we should aim high, but keeping our feet on the ground, meaning our goals should be challenging, but reachable, achievable one way or another. But also, because of that, because of the importance of those objectives that we need to define for ourselves, our plan, and this is not the second point, this is like the update to the first one, so our plan not only should be purposeful, meaning it should have one clear objective of ours or a set of objectives, but it should be trackable. For me to be able to say if I'm doing things right or should I adjust anything because there is something else that is like interfering with my progression, so to speak. Because like numbers matter. Whether we like them or not, we should be able to quantify and evaluate things as we go. So we've got this grand goal, right, which is like the release of our game. And once we have released our game, we would like to push as many copies to the market as possible. But we should be able to name our objectives prior to that to, as I have already mentioned, not educate, but to evaluate things as we go. And then, unfortunately, along with the release of our game, our work does not stop because we have to maintain the product, support the product, and monetize it post-release. So those indicators that we should track and we should attach to those goals of ours should be quantifiable and easy to evaluate prior and after our release. And there is like a simple set of factors that usually we should track and be aware of prior to the release. To name the most important ones, I would say that we should keep track of our wish lists, our pre-orders, if we are handling pre-orders, traffic, so Google Analytics is like a friend of ours for sure. Steam community, if we are on Steam, obviously we are on Steam, unless we are mobile and free to play, but if we are PC, or basically we are within that space, probably Steam community or an equivalent of one is going to be something that's going to be of interest of ours. And then obviously views and like coverage of our key materials that we are releasing. Then when it comes to the launch window, so to speak, we've got, again, wish list, pre-orders, but as well, like we've got day one, week one performance. Everything beyond that is post-release in my book. And product reception, because this one will influence our effectiveness, our efficiency very much. And post-release, mid-long-term sales, wish list plus conversion, because this is going to be important. Obviously, like the importance and the balance will depend heavily on if you have already established community, if you have like an IP that is already known and out there or not, and so on and so forth. But in general, those are the main indicators that you should keep at the back of your head, in my honest opinion. So the way I usually do that is I do it the memento style. So I start with my grand objective, and then I'm trying to take few steps back, thinking about what should I do to achieve that particular thing. So my sales, what should I do that to achieve them? Like, so probably I should bring people to the store. How many of them? If it's like 2 million people, like where can I find them? If they are aware of my product or not. If they are not aware of my product, how should I educate them about the product, and so on and so forth. So going back is the easiest way, for me at least, to break a big objective of mine into something smaller, easier to understand, and easier to track. So the takeaways from the first point would be, for me, set your objective and KPIs, meaning like key performance indicators, track things as you go so you can adjust and you can correct things as you go, not to be too late to the party when things are already out there, and adjust when needed, because sure, your plan is going to be great, most probably, but it will change along the way, most certainly, because of the fact that there are new factors that are coming into play, because of the fact that our market is unpredictable and things are happening and you have to react to them. Number 2, good plan is true to its source. Meaning that, as with Golden Circle by Simon Sinek, you should start with your product. Because, not only because of the fact that like it is at the essence, it is like this one thing that you want to promote, but in my experience, understanding your product will give structure to your campaign, like the basic structure. Because if you truly understand what your product is about, meaning what's the USP, you know what's the main thing you want to say. If you know your core features that you want to promote, you know the additional bits that you're going to release. And that will create like a set of elements for you, and that will create like an order of things that you can try to apply, try to map on a schedule, again referring to time, and you can think about what to say first, what to say next, what to supplement your communication with, and then knowing that hierarchy, you can think about, if I am about to cut something, I know what to cut and what has to stay there no matter what. So understanding your product, I'm gonna jump over that, and its USP, so the main selling proposal, plus RTBs, meaning the reasons to believe, so why that product is about that particular something that you claim it is, core features, you know what the structure of your campaign should be. The basic one, because it lacks context at this particular point. But you know what the starters are that you should take into consideration. And the good part about it is that like it's good to knowing those elements to add like the emotional layer to them. For people to care about them, because obviously you know that this is important for you as a developer or as a marketing person, if you are like skilled and like focused on that, but probably some of us are everything. We are like people covering development, marketing, especially in terms of indie developers, right? So we don't have that much time for that. We should focus on those elements that are the most important ones for us, but at the same time, we should make sure that people will relate to them, and this is where the emotional aspect comes into play. So obviously numbers, tracking, but then trying to think about how to make it emotional and relatable for our people. And this is what we do usually with most of our titles, and like if not all of them. I don't want to give you like an example of Frostpunk or This War of Mine, because those are the most obvious ones, but for Moonlighter, for example, this is not the product that we have developed internally, but one that we have helped to develop and we have published first and foremost. The product itself, meaning the game itself, was developed by Digital Sun, a highly, highly talented studio from Spain. And like the game itself, if you haven't heard about it, this is like a mix of shopkeeping simulator with dungeon crawling, action, Zelda-like. In a vein of those older Zelda titles, it is like a love letter to some of those. So obviously, when it comes to those core features, it's a roguelite hack and slash mixed with shopkeeping simulator, but the way we have dressed that through our marketing campaign was that this is a story of fulfilling dreams, because this is something that people can relate to. And Obviously, then, once we got our foot in the door with our emotional premise, we gained the opportunity of explaining all the features and all the elements out there. But that usually, in our case, is the second step, because I don't know if you care personally about like roguelite games. I don't know if you care about hack and slash, but probably being a human being, as most of us are, I know you lizard people are out there as well. You probably have some unfulfilled dreams. You probably have some things that you regret. You probably have some things that you would like to do differently. So giving you a story about that, I've got a higher chance of actually interesting you. And then I can tell you, but it's a roguelite. So yeah, so foot in the door through emotions. And having all that, so having the numbers, having objectives, having like the emotional layer to it, finally you can go big, right? You can do the biggest campaign ever, the most complex campaign ever, with all the things out there, with all the things that are gonna rule the world, right? No, hell no. Like the next point that should be on our agenda is that good plan is clear and simple. Firstly, because nobody has time for that, internally and externally. Secondly, if something is over complex, you're gonna lose it or you're gonna forget about it along the way. Your plan should be simple because you're gonna have enough of stuff to tackle, enough of stuff to manage, so that when you've got like a complex and multi-layered matrix to manage as well, it's gonna be something that will not help, but it will make things more difficult for you. Your plan should be a tool. If you've got like a tool and you want to put a nail using your hammer is like made out of two elements, because those two elements are necessary for you to actually get the job done. If your hammer was like multifaceted and whatnot, you wouldn't be able even to grasp it properly. The same thing is with your plan. Your plan should be clear, should be simple for you, but also for you to explain it to someone that is about to help you, someone that is about to be responsible for a particular element of that plan. Keep it simple, keep it effective, but keep it simple. We are not in the 80s where like we want to draw our maps as we go, like with the game here, which is, dude, mad respect. I love the Beholder, but being a marketing person, I do not want to draw my maps and like keep them in my head. I want that to be a modern game, one that leads me onward, one that like creates a path for me and gives me a marker, because again, I'm gonna handle a lot of things along the way. I don't want to be bothered with additional tasks. So understand your premise, meaning know what your game is, what the core features are, what all the things that are important about your product are, and what the hierarchy of those is. Convert that into a structure for your campaign, and keep your work clean and simple so that everyone can understand it. Like, do not create your plan for your management board to show how skilled and how educated you are. That's not the way. Keep it simple. Good plan is surprising, but only for the outsiders. Because again, like internally, you don't want any surprises. You're gonna get enough of those one way or another. You want to have something that is actually clear, that is like very much grounded, and even outside of everything, I do not believe personally that your plan actually has to be that surprising. It's good if it is, but it is kind of a quote-unquote nice to have feature. Obviously, if you've got something surprising, refreshing, that's gonna be more impactful, most probably, but firstly, it should be effective. It should work. So you can reuse stuff that already worked for you if it fits the context in which you exist right now. And internally, no surprises whatsoever. Again, let's keep it clear and simple, but let's keep it also modular, meaning that as we go, no matter what we do, most probably we're gonna have to cut something, most probably something will not be manageable or feasible for us, because life happens. And when life happens, few things happen along the way as well. So not everything is going to work, not everything is going to be feasible, and the rest has to work without it, right? It cannot be that you cutting out one thing will make everything else crumble into pieces. And no, you don't want us. You don't want to do that. Not everything is going to be seen or experienced by your players. I know that like on our slides and in our presentations, everything looks great. We've got like the educational phase, we've got the conversational phase, we've got all of those phases, like we are teasing and announcing and all of that. But no one cares about that beyond like our small crowd. To the degree where they are going to digest everything that we have to say, everything that we have to publish. They're going to see 1 or 2 bits, maybe 3, and seeing those bits, they should get enough of those information to actually be interested in our game. So for that to happen, that has to be modular, and those bits, those pieces of puzzle that we are publishing should work as a greater whole, but also on their own, they have to be impactful enough and strong enough so they can actually be of interest to our peeps. Not everything will work as intended, because we are not geniuses. Certainly, I am not one. So those things, however great we consider them to be, usually they are good enough at best. But that good enough can be good enough, actually, but let's make sure that, like, again, in separation and especially as a whole, they are good enough. And like, as long as it allows you to stay afloat, as long as it allows you to like move on with your campaign, you are good. But for that to happen, you have to make sure that those criteria are met. So takeaways: prioritize and test the clarity internally, talking to people, explaining your plan, asking for questions, doing all of that. Share and discuss things openly. That's like, I cannot express how important that is. Like me personally, I like to keep things to myself, so I'm working on something and I don't want to share it because it's not ready just yet, which is not good. You should share and discuss your things as early as possible, because then you're going to get feedback. There you're going to get other opinions, you're going to see how funneled your vision is and what is outside of your view cone, and that's very, very important. And kill your darlings, meaning that if something doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. No matter how great that idea is, if your campaign can do without it, probably it's not necessary. And if something should be cut, probably it should be cut. But then, because of the previous point, when you've got the structure, when you know the most important thing, and then you know what comes later, you know what to cut first. Because there are some bits that absolutely have to stay. Depending on your game, I won't name that bits because I don't know your product, but you knowing and understanding your product, you should be able to name those bits, and then you fight for those, killing everything else if necessary. Good plan accounts for risks and failures. For risks, because we should test things as we go. We cannot stick only to those solutions that worked for us in the past, because the market is changing, because our consumers are changing, and we have to, and like there are new tools now. We've got AI. In a second, we're going to have something else. Those things can leverage whatever we do, so we have to try. But trying new things means that 1 out of 2 will probably fail, and that's how it is. That's all fine, as long as we are prepared for it and we've got a scenario for it, right? Because you know the guy, probably, you know the quote, probably, and some of you probably even know that the quote comes from this guy, not the guy before. But yeah, we cannot do things over and over again, expecting different results. We should prepare for different results. We should try new things, but trying new things mean that we should be able to say that we have failed and we are prepared to go with plan B. And one of the internal examples that I like, actually, is our work for Children of Morta. Again, a game that we have published a few years ago. And for that game, we have tried a thing on Steam that right now I think is pretty common, but to my knowledge, I may be wrong about it, but to my knowledge, we were the first one to do that. And the thing was that for pre-ordering game on Steam, when you pre-ordered our game on Steam, you got demo and you could play like the first 2 levels of the game, or the first biome basically, I don't remember exactly, instantly. So it was like 5 months before the official release of the game. So you had like a instant gratification for pre-ordering a game, which is not usually the case. Usually you pre-order, and for at least I usually, when I pre-order, I totally forget about the game, and then I'm surprised by the fact that I have already bought it. Here, that was not the case. I was pre-ordering, and I was getting something, and that gave us an enormous boost. Funnily enough, when we have proposed that, internally, we got a lot of pushback, like from some people on some important positions in our company, not pointing any fingers, but they were against that because we haven't done that in the past, and it was against some of the rules that we have already established. But in this particular case, actually it was like a cooperation between BizDev and marketing, specifically Patryk, who was and is responsible for BizDev, and my humble person, and we were like, no, but this is gonna work because of the context. This is gonna work because of that particular thing. Here we should do that. We know the rule, we want to break the rule. Should that be a failure for us, we know what to do, and that's the second important part, but we believe that it's gonna work. And it worked brilliantly, mostly building like 2 things. Firstly, sales in terms of the pre-orders, but also wish lists, which was because like we got additional traffic, additional the exposition, and due to that, additional wish lists. So even those people that haven't paid just yet, they stayed with us, and then we were capable of converting them. So again, like, rules are great. Rules are to follow, unless you want to break them. Then you should break them. But you should break them if you are certain that that actually may work for you. And especially when you break your rules, think about at least 3 scenarios. And that's basically true for the whole campaign, but specifically for those situations. Think about the scenario where you meet your success, a scenario where you're like 6 out of 10 and you are happy, I guess, but not that much and whatnot, and then like a total disaster. You should know what to do with each and every one of them, because like use the opportunity of a success, but also embrace the failure and think about how to get back out there, because you've got stuff to do. And for each and every of our games, when we prepare like a marketing plan, we've got a scenario for a huge success, for a, that's not good, but thank you, 10 minutes, for mediocre success, and for a failure. So, okay, good plan is enabling, and that's the most important part, and the part that we are forgetting pretty often. What I mean by that is that whatever you may think about yourself as a marketer, you may be like a very intelligent and very experienced person, your marketing plan is not as good as you are. Your marketing plan is as good as your consumer action is. That sounds awkward, but what I mean by that is that with each bit, whatever you do out there, it doesn't matter if people cannot react to that, fulfilling one of your goals. So it comes back to those previous things, right? So when you release a trailer, what would you like people to do with that trailer? Aside from watching, because this is obvious, right? But do you want that trailer to boost your wish lists? Or you want that trailer to bring people to your product page? Or you want that trailer to do whatever else? Think about how to do that. By putting end slates, preparing links, redirecting traffic, cutting the trailer into smaller bits and using performance campaign, and so on and so forth. Think about what people should do, how people should react to your bit, every bit, and then put that on your map. So interaction, because again, it's about your move, but then even more, it's about the move of people you are reaching out to with your content. And good plan is funneling, because you want to bring people to your product and you want them to make a purchase. So yeah, funnel the shit out of them. As with level design, I've watched this cool talk from GDC. Dan Taylor, I think he was like a level designer for, I don't remember what the game was. Anyway, GDC 2013, Dan Taylor, great talk on level design, and he had this nice matrix showing that levels, when you prepare them, they should educate you, they should allow you to play with them, challenge you, and surprise you. So with marketing, you've got the same set of rules. They are just labeled a bit differently. You tease people with your communication. You pitch your idea, so you sell your game, basically. You educate them about why should they care, telling them all the good things about your game, and then you try to bring them to make the purchase, which is basically a funnel. Because at the end of the day, getting back to level design, I think that a modern campaign should basically play like a walking sim, but feel like a Souls-like. So I need to have that sense of an adventure, but at the same time, I do not want those high thresholds. I want to go smoothly. I want to experience everything. And at the end of the day, I want to be gratified by something probably, and hopefully by playing your game. So do not shy from trying new things. Account for various outcomes, so those various scenarios, and funnel your audience towards your goal, which you have defined at the very beginning of it all. And good plan is relevant, the Rust point, as far as I remember. Again, I don't remember the presentation that much. So your plan, having those goals, having the structure, having all the content, you've got that, but then you've got, again, time, you've got a calendar, things are happening. Put them to use, take advantage of them. So release calendar, think about what other games are being released, what are they doing, should you do something differently, should you react, should you avoid something, that's important. Having your structure, you are putting that onto the calendar and thinking about all the things that are happening there. Events, online and offline. COVID taught us that not everything has to happen offline. Some online events are of value as well. So PAX, GDC, Gamescom, TGS, Beat Summit, to name few of them. Digital Dragons, obviously, for industry people, and GIC, and so on and so forth. But Steam events, online shows, those are of value. Those are generating traffic. You should take them into consideration and see how they fit your windows of releasing content, of releasing game, of doing whatever you do within the limits of your funnel. Then grassroots initiatives. From my perspective, sometimes because of the cost efficiency and how much money you have to spend on, for example, events. Press tours are brilliant because they are way cheaper and way more effective sometimes. Dedicated partnerships. You've got brilliant partners out there. I've seen you guys, and yeah, we've been working with many partners along the way, and usually it is to a huge benefit for us. And pop culture or zeitgeist. There are things happening that may align with the USP, with the essence of your game. It's great to take advantage of that as well. With Frostpunk in the winter, like releasing the game, I know it's like a niche example, but releasing the game in Japan, we used the fact that it was one of the heaviest winters, so we made like an event outdoors in Hokkaido for the reviewers to actually play people buried in snow, which was great, which was like on brand, right? But like for something more meaningful with This War of Mine, we got into like the cooperation with various charities and organizations that are helping casualties of war, right? And that was something meaningful, but also something that boosted the visibility for the game. It wasn't the main goal of that, but it helped with that as well. But like for various games, one of the cool examples for me is Bloodborne, and if I remember correctly, for Bloodborne, the marketing agency responsible for that used blood donations. So Bloodborne, because of the name and because of the amount of blood, I assume, was connected to basically donating blood, and they were preparing some buses and whatnot. So again, cool thing that was happening, and they have connected the dots, and then you can put that into your plan and so on and so forth. And good plan can be stolen, lastly. Meaning by stolen, I mean adapted. Creatively, obviously, because We don't want to be that, but yes, like bad artists imitate, great artists steal. And don't hesitate from doing that. Like there are things out there that worked, and you do not have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to think about how those things fit into your plan. Your game is original. Your creative ideas are going to be original. Your plan has to be effective. Sorry. And yes, boss level at the end of our game, which is everything, everywhere, all at once. You are setting your goals and KPIs, starting with that. That leads you to understanding your game and converting that into a structure. From that structure, you create the campaign. You search for relevance, so you try to find the whole thing that I have shown you on the matrix on the previous slide. You try to be as interactive as possible, providing people space to engage with your communication, with your beats, with your game itself. And you never stop doing that because your game is a roguelite, meaning like your campaign is a roguelite. So wherever you stop, you start all over again, and then you promote, and then you support, and then you think about what has changed. There is no end to that, and that's fine, because you know your objectives, and after meeting those, you're going to establish some new for yourself. Thank you very much, guys. I hope I have managed to fit the time. Cool. So again, that's me. That tended to work for me. I hope you're going to find something insightful here. Should you have any questions, I'm going to be outside right now and then at the 11-bit booth. We still have time for one or two questions here. Are there any? Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm working with Japanese gaming industry.
Hey, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. I was wondering, what do you find most challenging every time when you create a plan?
Actually, it's going to be a boring and short answer. Setting objectives is surprisingly difficult because it demands a lot of internal communication. You have to understand the business people. You have to understand your product, your goals, and your company strategy so that those objectives are not just, oh, we want a success for our game. What does it mean? Like creating and setting quantifiable, like graspable objectives. This is super, super difficult and important. And evaluating those as you go is super important as well, and that is like usually pushed aside by our teams because of the fact that it is difficult, but also because of the fact that it shows your mistakes, and people shy away from that. So it is super, the second thing I would say is, which proved to be super important for me, is to be as clear as possible about the fact that we are evaluating not to punish. We are evaluating not to see who's doing good job and who's performing worse, but we are doing that to actually make sure that we can improve in terms of the communication itself and in terms of the marketing itself. So people should be aware of the fact that there are no penalties, there is nothing bad awaiting them. We just want to make sure that we are doing as good job as possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, man. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely rest of the event. Have fun in the evening, and I'm going to see you out there. Cheers.